What is going on, everybody? This is Foxmind in the Mad Hen House. I'm Doug of Mad Hen, and with me is our second host, Captain K, aka Kevin Bradley. I'm just gonna straight up say it. I really hate David Cage games. I really don't like David Cage games at all because they're just giant quick time events. Okay, the reason why
I'm drawn into them in a premise, but the moment I realize he made it, my expectations are lowered.
Oh yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Bless you. You okay?
Wait. Almost done.
Okay.
Okay, I think I'm good.
See, the reason why I bring this up, actually, no, actually, Captain, do you wanna, because this is your bit.
Well, he's made so many different kind of games, and, I admit I've played every one of them. And each one, I'm not disappointed in the reason that I'm getting the game. But I'm usually disappointed by the end of the game. And it's because even when you get to, Indigo Prophecies, or I guess it was called, was it Fahrenheit? Was its other title?
Yeah, it was Fahrenheit.
Yeah. The premise, it's going somewhere great. You go through it at the beginning, you're kind of like, oh, I'm intrigued. Oh. And then, midway, all his games do that, throw all the logic that I built up out the window for crazy, fantastical, you want to feel awesome for a moment, but you don't understand why you're feeling awesome.
Oh my god, fucking race. Oh.
It's just... And then there's usually some weird scene that makes no sense. Me and Heavy Rain, that whole her being attacked in her fucking apartment scene that's oh, it was a dream. Why did I just do a quick time event dream? What the fuck? She is not that important to me that I need to do her quick time dream.
Right? Oh my god. That was such a cop-out. Don't get me wrong. I'll say it. Don't get me wrong. I like the shower scene. Those titties.
Yeah, I was I had a feeling where you were heading, and I was no, visually, you can understand visually why he left that scene in, but it's but, and that's what I said, there's, even in contrast, okay, you have that pointless scene in, that has no real reason to be and then later on, you have that same woman in another scenario where if you don't do your quick times right, basically she's going to get drilled in the worst possible way. Mm-hmm. So you're okay, why is this here? But then later on, when you deal, because obviously this game's been out long enough that spoilers, I'm sorry for anybody. I feel bad for you, but I'm sorry. But either way, that I think his name was Ethan.
Yeah.
Ethan. You live play cutting your damn finger off. All the setup to it. And I'm that is hard gameplay. Because that scene actually did get me out of everything he did in the quick time. It's okay, well, you're going to have to do this. And even if you tried to just do I'm going to do it cold and just cut my finger off, Ethan's You're okay, we'll drink a little bit. Drink some more. Some more.
That portion was really I might
that hit you were holy fuck.
That was intense because the build up and the execution, you have to understand. If I'm watching something like Mortal Kombat where Cage just casually rips his daughter in half, you're okay, but with Ethan that hits a lot harder because you're just okay, gonna do this. Ah! You know what I mean?
Yeah, and even the moment that there's a point where it's not one smooth stroke, and then you have to be oh, I gotta in game work it off. It's so agonizing to just go through, and you're okay, I feel 100% his trauma. Like, there's
Yeah.
no, I would kill everyone for my child now. Fuck this bullshit.
Right? Oh my god. Like, oh, that
So, he's good in that area of game writing and story. Like, he gets you compelled into it. It's just, then when you go through the motions, you're like, this would have been better to watch as a movie. Like,
yeah.
I would have definitely have went to the theater for this movie. This would have been a fucking amazing movie. But me playing it is awkward.
Yeah, that is true. Oh, it's just I called it options. All right. Proceed with mission controls. Main menu. I need to add a new button, which means I'm gonna have to do some arranging here. Yeah. Okay. So with because with it's like the only
You're like trying to give him credit, but you're trying not to give him. I can hear it in your tone.
Yeah.
You're trying to be like, I want to give him credit, but if I give him that credit, I'm gonna have to take it back. I can hear it.
Yeah,
no, realistically, like I said, if you were to get him and say, I want you to write me a no. If you were to trick him and tell him to give you the premise for a video game, took his premise for the video game, said fuck the game, and turned it into a movie script, he'd make millions. No one would complain except him because it wasn't a video game. I promise you.
Yeah.
Because most of his plots, if they weren't a game, they would be amazing. But the fact that it's a game ruins some of the effects because some of the decisions that you are open to make kind of fuck the game experience over. Whereas if it reined you in away from there, it would make it more dramatic. Some options that you feel like should be there aren't there because you don't feel like it's an option. But that may not necessarily have been a thing for that character. So if they were in a movie, that character would have had independent thought. That would have been a different option for them.
Yeah. Okay.
So I feel like I don't feel like he lacks talent. I feel like he lacks talent in making a game. If it wasn't a game, all his stuff would be compelling. But in the way he tries to execute it as a game, it lacks. It's never just failing, it's just lackluster.
Yeah, I can see that. It's like
at least that's how I feel about it. Like
because his work, he's just I really don't like him. Because
I mean, like him as a person, I don't.
Well, yeah. I don't mean him as a
that's
person.
different.
I'm sure. Like, I'll give him a benefit of the doubt. Like, he might be like the nicest person, like to just talk to or whatever. But when he makes games,
yeah.
Because like, take for instance, oh wow, okay. So take for instance, like Detroit.
Ooh. Oh yeah.
Of all the things you could have like focused on in terms of like, oh, god damn it, in terms of like with Detroit, I was like, you could go like how robots, how AI is like, oh, they're taking our jobs away, oh no. Instead, you go for the fucking okay. Instead, you go for the fucking racism angle. Serious?
Yeah. Well, I mean, at that time, I feel like he was just trying to get social commentary in there, too. Because at that time, there was already a bunch of racism stuff starting to rise back up again that hadn't been talked about. Because even up to where we are now, like, it would not be unheard of for a racism game to come flying out now. Because it'd be like, yeah, it was only a matter of time. Like, it's somebody's race was going to get cleansed in a game somewhere during this time. So, but back then, it was kind of like still murmurs of people, occasional people getting it out there that, oh, racism's still there. And so I think he wanted to just get into the social commentary. It's just, like you're putting, he did it in wrong execution. Even if you wanted to use it as racism, you could have had it for a different reason. Like, Deus Ex worked along that line a little closer. And not in actual racism, but I mean, like, when you can see the division of people due to, like, how they look, how they're interpreted, things like that, where you can generally see where people are just acting different. Not just flat-out racism, but kind of a whole, okay, you can see they're treating them different. You could have done that in Detroit and just shown, like, the actions of people who were more okay with robots or androids, and then the ones who, like, even if you had, like, a replacement limb, they kind of just act different. But not just flat out, like, I'm gonna burn your house! Like, no. But just, like, you can blatantly tell there's, like, some kind of going on, and then have it go to a build. Because some event takes place. It's not a hard thing to do if you wanted to try and treat it like racism, but it's not racism, so it's still two different things.
Well, to go back to what you were saying in terms of, like, the racism angle they were doing in Deus Ex, Human Revolution. I'm assuming you're using Human Revolution?
Yeah, that's the main one where they did the most of that, after it kind of fell a little more into the back burner.
Well, that's what I was saying, like, whatchamacallit, Eidos Montreal / you think their writing is a lot smarter than it actually is? Because, like, with Human Revolution's case, right, the whole premise of people being, like, racist towards, like, augmented individuals, that shit's completely moot. We've been using cybernetic augments since man created fucking fire. I have glasses, I use a smartphone, we're using a fucking computer. Oh, Doug, they're talking about racism towards augments who actually permanently alter their body. Oh, you mean like a ring, or like a ring, a tongue, nipple, or belly ring, or something like that. No.
Or a hip replacement.
Yeah, I was gonna
or a knee replacement.
A pacemaker, a fucking metal plate that goes into your skull. No, the things, cybernetics that make you think faster or act quicker, Doug. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know steroids didn't exist in that time. I mean, like...
Yeah. I mean, vitamins have been now condensed down into pill form. Did you think everybody did that by hand? Did we suddenly go Full Metal Alchemist and just draw the circle and put all the ingredients there and just go, ha! And then you're like, pills. Like, if that's how we did it, I would more want to be in the medical field, I'm not going to lie. Okay. If we were still doing alchemy, like, okay, I'll go back to school for it. That's cool.
Yeah.
Totally down for alchemy. Oh. But, no, it's other than that, we had to figure out how to adjust it and augment it for each person's body, because that's how we figured out dosages. Because otherwise, we'd just be out there being like, I'll eat 3 leaves of it. That should be good. Turns out to be poisonous. And you're like, oh yeah, it's only fine if you eat half a leaf. You're like, who would have knew? So, because that's a lot of our medicine anyway, is like it's always been a weird thing to begin with. And games have kind of delved into it some, because even when games go like, oh, drug addictions or addiction to things, it's like, it's usually just treated at the level of, that's a bad addiction. So the game treats it like, it must be stopped. But it's never treated in the same instance of, hey, would this really be considered an addiction if someone just did it in moderation properly? And I'm not saying in, like, the obvious bad drugs, but like in, it's not a game, but the context for this would matter. In Code Geass, they have that drug, I believe it was Refrain, which is what they would use, which would have them relive past memories. But the problem was that the Japanese were reliving it to the point of addiction and just being lost in reality. But if you weren't using it to that extreme, would you really consider it bad? Would it be any different than a moment that you sit down and have a beer? Because it's just a small period of time that you don't have to do something. You step out of yourself, and then you come back. It's what people do normally every day. It's just you normally don't want to do it to such excess that you can't come back, in essence.
That does make sense. But, like, if you want an example of someone doing something that's bad, or rather, like, but, like, it's still more or less, I mean, like, it's not as socially acceptable as it used to be. Fucking, Solid Snake still smoked.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's tied into his badassness. And technically the game has the caveat because it blatantly has in there, like, hey, it's gonna kill you. You're gonna die. You're smoking just for dying. And it's like, because I remember that back in Metal Gear Solid, well, dude, the cigarettes would sit there and you'd be like, you smoke it, doesn't do anything, kills you. Like, it's gonna kill you. And then even now, you're like, okay, well, Snake's rapid aging. Yeah, he's still smoking. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Like,
This fucking sounds like that's why he's like, fuck you.
he's like, I'm dying of cancer and I'm older than I should be. Why the fuck shouldn't I smoke? Tell me why. I can get it from that. From that kind of a character, it would make sense to still advertise that that character could smoke. Because Solid Snake's life, yes, if he didn't smoke, he would need to drink. If he didn't drink, what? He is not a shonen protagonist. He's not going to get through with the power of friendship. That is not going to happen. Give that man a Jack Daniels. Like, something.
Jack Daniels.
I'm just saying, like, in that type of character, it's obvious that, like, okay, they need to sustain that. But if you wanted to be like, I'm going to be phonetically appropriate just for this one moment, even though I hate it so much, if you wanted to get Tidus from Final Fantasy X, yeah, I'm being appropriate with his proper name, even though I hate that is his name properly. But, and you stuck a cigarette on him, yeah, that would be other chaos in the Final Fantasy world. Technically, Auron could probably get away with it, because Auron's character type looks like, yeah, you got one eye, you carry a sword on one shoulder. Yeah, you could do a cigarette. You make sense. But Tidus lights up, everyone would lose their goddamn mind. They would lose their mind if Kamari lit up. So, I mean, it's a weird contrast when you create a certain character, because if you create a character who can have flaws, but the flaws are built into their character, you can't count them against their flaw because it's built to who they are. But if you make a character and then arbitrarily throw something on them to make them cool, then, yeah, you kind of look... You have that eating an apple to look like an asshole problem.
Okay, yeah, I gotta...
Anytime you throw that apple in someone's hand and they aren't gonna eat it, but you know they're gonna eat it, so there's just a suspenseful moment of when the fuck are you gonna bite this apple moment.
I was gonna ask, when the fuck was it, like, a thing why is eating an apple an asshole thing? Like, when the fuck did that actually be a thing?
In a lot of different things, it usually just had that the person holding the apple was always saying something snarky or making some condescending comment or talking down to someone, and then they bite into the apple. But if you still wanted to be even technical to it, a far extension but similar attribute would be Light Yagami eating the potato chip. Mm-hmm. Oh, you don't see me. I'll take a potato chip and eat it! And, like, yeah, it's the same equivalency of the apple. I'm talking down to you. You don't even fucking know. You're beneath me. Eating casually. It's just apple was always chosen because I guess everybody has apples. I mean, if I'm going to be an asshole about something, I'm going to eat pomegranates. I'm going to look fancy. Fuck you. Why am I going to eat an apple?
I'm going to eat pomegranates. Fuck it.
Like, I'm going to fucking look like Dionysus over here if I'm going to be on my fucking Shea Lounge with a saucer, just politely eating, talking shit to you. I'm not going to bite an apple. What the fuck? What if I get lockjaw? What if that shit stuck in my teeth? Now I got a monologue with apple pieces and fuck you. No. You eat appropriate things to monologue. Like, you can't monologue and eat a Snickers. It doesn't work.
Oh my god, I would kill to see, like, the big bad eating a Snickers and he's just oh, you know what would be awesome? Because, like, okay, hear me out on this. You see Emperor Palpatine making, like, I will rule the universe or something like that. He eats a Snickers, and then all of a sudden, he changes into, like, Mr. Rogers. And Mr. Rogers goes, hello, neighbor. Hungry? Wow, wait. Eat a Snickers.
No! Oh, wow.
What?
I don't even...
You're not.
I don't even know how that works if he can go that drastically far. Jesus.
Hey, you're not you when you're hungry. You're not you when you're hungry. Grab a Snickers. That's their tag.
But that's a huge. That is Darth Vader feeding the Snickers into the air ventilator and then becoming a goddamn Care Bear. That is what you just equivalated. That is a huge goddamn job. Palpatine to Rogers is a huge job. Palpatine doesn't even pretend good as well as Rogers, for fuck's sake. When he was Chancellor, I was still like, yeah, that bitch is suspicious. I wouldn't leave him with the important things. No.
Yeah.
Like, Mr. Rogers, yeah, you don't really feel any intimidation. If Mr. Rogers walked up to you and just looked at you for a moment, you still wouldn't even feel like you're creeped out. You're just like, he must want something. He's just there. He must need something.
Yeah.
Like, you don't feel like you need to run.
You don't feel like you need to run.
I mean, well, I'm just saying, he doesn't have that imposing of a presence in any, even in a dark alley context. If Mr. Rogers came walking out of the shadows, I am not going to scream and run away. I'm not. I don't care how frightening the area is. I don't care what face he's making. If it's just him stepping out, saying, hello, neighbor. No. No. I'm not going. I would be more frightened by someone in a Cookie Monster costume. Even though I know it's a goddamn costume, because I want more questions why the fuck they're in that
alley. Oh my god, that's so fucking good. That is so good.
But point being, I almost forgot what the original rant was for all this. We sidetracked so hard. I know it dealt with drugs and madness and games, but we sidetracked so hard.
No, we were talking about, like, how the hell did we get to Snickers?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's a huge sidetrack.
Oh, because you were talking about how you were going to eat pomegranates and, like, how...
Oh, yeah.
Eating a Snickers, like, no.
Because apples, yes. Yeah. Apples, right. Yeah, no, so I don't know. I know when it started being brought up, but I don't know when it became the definitive apples make you an asshole thing, or anytime there's a shot of somebody being an asshole, an apple must be there. Mm-hmm. And they will either not eat it or eat it. And it's just like, and it still works the same way. So if you're an asshole, you can hold the apple like you're going to eat it, and then never take a bite of it in the scene, and then the scene changes, and you're an asshole, because you're just holding an apple. Why the fuck are you holding an apple? But if you're eating an apple, but you're eating it during a time you're talking down to someone, it's like, why the fuck are you eating an apple right now? So either way, you're still an asshole. Mm-hmm. Just because apple is there. But we don't talk about those people who are over there eating grapes. Like, what about them? They've been doing that for years. Nobody talks about them.
Oh, that's true. That is true. Actually, you know what? Let me get rid of this. That is true. Like, well, yeah, because grapes is the ultimate, like,
I'm too lazy to make wine, so I'm just gonna eat these.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's all grapes are, is I can have wine and get drunk, but I'm lazy, so I'm gonna eat these grapes because I don't feel like waiting for them to ferment. I'm lazy. I need it now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the ultimate hedonism. Oh my god, I'm picturing Grimace doing that.
Eating the grape. Well, I don't think he can, though. Because if the grapes... Because you know the history of grape. Well, I say the history. The phases of grapes. Grapes, at a certain point, will start to transition into raisins. Right?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So in that process, they don't look as round as grapes. So in a certain process, they start looking like Grimace. So wouldn't you think he'd feel guilty?
Yeah.
Of eating grapes, I think. I feel like he would run around beating people down because he would keep mistaking those for, like, his children. Mm. Like, maybe that's how they look when they first start out. Those are babies' Grimace looks. And then they grow into Grimace.
Yeah. Oh my god. Like, we have to stop that. Then we're gonna like start delving into Grimace again.
You're gonna have to start doing game design specifically for Grimace, just so you can fit it in. You have to make the Grimace. Oh god, that would be frightening. The Grimace game on par with like Sims level control.
Fuck that.
Oh dear god.
It would be like sneaking or something like that. God, remember that sneaking? That
yeah.
For those who are fuck me.
Oh no! No! It could be like Civilization games. The Grimace is at war.
Oh Jesus.
You know, you can select your particular patron Grimace deity.
The Grimace of War. The Grimace of War.
It'll be perfect.
Oh my god, yeah.
All the peasants worship the Grimace of Fields.
The Grimace of Pits and Wine.
So terrible.
I know, like, a bunch of people, like, right now are questioning, like, wait, I thought this was gaming. Why did this turn into Slab Lounge? And it kind of did, if you think about it.
It's true, but at the same time, this might actually become a game. You never know.
Yeah.
It could be built. We have time.
I'll go to McDonald's. I mean, they might fucking hate me for like all the shit that I gave with Grimace and all the stuff that I talked about with Grimace. But I'll go to them. I'll say like, hey, I will make this game for you. Give me money.
You know what? We'll even throw in a bonus. We will use a special attack of Rain of Fries. And if it's a hot, sunny day, the fries will age appropriately, so they'll be like spears. It'll be perfect. It'll be fine.
Oh, the Rain of Fries. Oh, my God. Okay, for those who don't know, this one needs some context. Because, well, you were the one that said it. That made me laugh. You might as well say it again, because, like, to bring the viewers up to speed. Well, these viewers up to speed, because they might not know what the fuck we're talking about with Rain of Fries.
In terms of McDonald's fries? Oh no, they know. They know the evil. They know the who does not know the lore of McDonald's fries at this point? Like if you don't know what happens to your fries 10 minutes after you stop looking at your fries because you thought that burger was more delicious, you haven't been eating at McDonald's long enough.
Oh man, that switch is still visible. Shit. Alright, give me a second.
Oh dear. But for context purposes, anyone who does question it, unlike some other restaurants where you can go get fries and then be like, oh, I haven't eaten my fries for like an hour, I could just go pop them in the microwave, or sometimes you could just throw some salt or some pepper, you know, maybe some ketchup, just bring them back to life, they're good. Sometimes you can even put them in the oven, just rebirth them a little bit. No, McDonald's fries are how do I put it politely? They do not follow well with that form of necromancy. You do not revitalize McDonald's fries. If you do not eat them when they are prepared, they will kill you, one way or another. They will either aggressively stab you as they stale into spikes, or they will basically be like packing peanuts in your stomach, which you will then spitefully hate the next day. So, one way or another, if you don't eat those fries while they're ready, they will betray you.
Yeah. Yes, they will betray you. They will.
And that is the origin of Rain of Fries.
Oh my god.
Pretty sure we're not getting that McDonald's sponsorship.
No, we are not.
Oh,
that's why I was invisible.
Although if we did, I would think that's hilarious.
Right?
If one day we're like, so we aren't actually lying about being sponsored about McDonald's. Grimace is actually paying us to say this, so
oh my god.
That will be the interesting day when we actually do work under Grimace.
Yeah.
then you won't have a choice about talking about it.
Right? Oh my god. Right?
But I guess back to the original origin of the discussion.
Yeah.
But the point being was the original origin, way back. David Cage he's good at writing plots. He's good at getting you entangled in it. He's good at having the detailed events of what you would think would go down. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he tries to have you too involved with the character in the decision process, and sometimes he gives you too much freedom in it, technically ruins the experience.
Yeah.
And the fact that even in that, you don't need QTEs that randomly explode at you at any given moment with no warning. Like, there's some times where it's like, okay, you can get a hit that it's about to happen. But there's other times it's just, the scene's occurring! And you're like, well, okay, I'm dead. Wow. And that was an important decision moment? Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's how... There was a few times I had to restart the game because I just killed off one of the people. And I was just like, I didn't think that was the defining moment. It seemed pretty petty, but okay.
Yeah. Now, as for you, I need to see if there's a binding. If there isn't a binding for you, I gotta create one. But yeah, like like in the end, I don't know what to think about David Cage. Because for the record, some of his stuff kind of has potential. I will give it that. It's just the execution of it all just really.
Yeah. That's why I said if he could work on his execution, everything else would be good. Or if it just was not in a video game medium.
Yeah.
If it was not a video game, if he was to make a movie, the movie would be amazing. Because all the things he brings up in his games are interesting concepts. And even when he goes off the rails with it, the concept is not really lost. It's how you're executing it. Because even the way you have the main character involved, it's weird. You're forcibly getting the main character involved. Because not so much Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain's plot issues are actually kind of ironed out to a certain degree. My issues with its plot stem from the decisions you can make in the plot, as opposed to how the plot can function, because there is a part in the story where you could just go through and make it all make sense.
Yeah.
But you could also do other shit where you're like, what? Why are we... How do you not know he just killed him? You were there. There's weird moments where you're blatantly like, evidence is in front of us at the moment now, but I can't address the evidence because the game won't let me. But I know. And then there's other times when you go through the story, depending on your decision, where it's like, oh, I never would have had a clue because I didn't go in this area. Okay, that's written well. It's a juggle. It depends on whatever he's writing about at that time, and you can kind of tell how well he thought about whatever premise he's doing, because his what's the word for it? Well, I guess you could say his end game, half the time in most of his games, you can figure out what it is by the middle of the game. So then the rest of the game is just you waiting to see how you get there. Because there's usually something involved in the game that gives itself away what's happening. In Indigo Prophecy, Fahrenheit, that worked up to a point until it literally did go off the rails, and then it was like cult, psychic, alien, battle, Neo, weird. When that happened, that's where you could just tell, he might have just ran out of how he wanted to end this. Because through the story, finding out about the cultist stuff, no, that was interesting. Knowing it in the world happening and that it might be involved was interesting. But then when it suddenly slapped the main character in the face, it was like, oh no, this is just dumb.
Yeah, that's true.
When it came out of the shadows is technically when it ruined it. When it was in the shadows, it was a great concept. But then the main character it probably would have been more interesting had he drug it out of 2 games and had the main character slowly expose that out. And then that would have gave time for the main character to understand his abilities and why the fuck he has them. Instead of, oh, Is this the Matrix? I feel like this is the Matrix. I just learned everything. Like, because that's the scaling you go from. You go from scared guy who may have killed somebody and I don't understand why, to I can manipulate the fabric of reality and I need no ground to walk. And you're like, I don't. And then when the game ends, even then, it's like, so what? You just go back to having a normal life after that? Like, what do you? The fuck do you do? Because at least Heavy Rain, that makes sense. Yes, you go back to a normal life. You have your child. You went through all... Okay, I can work with that. But Indigo Prophecies, the fuck do you come back from that? You don't just go home and eat Frosted Flakes. Like, what the fuck? You just fought like a weird psychic alien cult. You don't...
Yeah.
You are not Saitama. You can't just go shrug that off.
Yeah, just not Saitama.
Well, because I mean, like Saitama, it's just like, oh, I'm killing one punch. You know, stuff will happen the longer I don't go near it, so I won't. Okay, that makes sense. But in the context with like that, you're like, okay, I was tricked into murdering someone, and now I'm a super powerful god deity thing. So I'm gonna just go home and watch The View. Like, no. You don't know. Like, even Superman does do that. Superman does not become Clark Kent and then go have, like, a TV dinner. He at least goes to a goddamn restaurant. Like, you gotta do something. And Indigo Prophecies just ended there, and then it was never talked of again. And then he just made all these other games, and it's just like, I've always been intrigued, like, so how does that dude just function? Because in all his other stories, I guess that's my main game that I have a gripe with him about, is that first game, because he never really... I feel like he's had time to go back and fix some things, and he just said, fuck it, and kept making more things, and then kept making the same trap doors in plots and everything, instead of just being like, maybe I should go back and readdress the first one.
Okay, yes, I've given this man yes, I give David Cage a lot of shit, but I will grant him this, because, I hate looking at my old work. Like, I hate looking at my old... Like, if I put something... Like, if I publish something, right, and then I have to go back and look at... Because that's something I had to swallow, because you might not... Well, I know you don't know this. When I put out Death TV, right, for the first time, Death TV was this top-down twin-sticks shooter. You get to choose between... I was getting... I put out the demo where 3 out of the 4 classes would be available. You'd actually be able to play 4 out of the 8 stages, 1 being exclusive to all the classes. And,
okay.
You know, it would be narrated by Mitch McElroy and Paul O'Halloran. The Talking Turtle and the Brendo. Anyway, the thing is, when I put it out, like, nobody downloaded, right? So I was like, after that, but after launch, the Hipster came out, and people, and like, you know, people bought. Not a lot of people bought it, but again, that was expected because, like, at the end of the day, it was Angry Birds ripoff, not a clone, just a ripoff.
Yeah.
So I was all like, okay, I have this momentum. Let's try Death TV again. So I open up Death TV, and I'm just all like, I am really pissed off at this shit. Why am I looking at this? Why am I doing... But it's not just that. Like, you know how you learn and evolve with your techniques and stuff like that? I'm looking at some of the shit that I did in Death TV, and I'm like, what? Am I this fucking retarded? Oh my god, why would I do that when I could have just hard attached this thing? What? I'm so stupid. So here I am changing it. And, you know, I put it back out. Luckily, nobody downloaded it. And thank God nobody downloaded Death TV. Because if they did, and I'd have to go back and fix it, I swear to God, it would just be like, people, I love you all, but I'm just going to scrap Death TV and do a ground-up rebuild and probably go the full 3D route that I've always wanted. So, fuck you. You know, oh my God, it was so... it was so... So, like, you know, I'm just speculating here, but I will give him that kind of credit because, yeah, I honestly, if I had to look at my old work again, I would fucking scream. Like, I'm fine looking at like the old work like this. I'm fine looking at, you know, this, because it's still in development. I'm fine looking at Insane Driving and Insane Shooting, because they're still in development. But if I have to go back to a game that was published and start working on it again, I'm gonna fucking scream and like, I hate looking at my old work. It's done. It's out. It's over. Fuck it. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I can get it from that aspect. I guess I'm just slightly different because I don't have an issue looking at my old work, because if I feel like it needs improvement, I'd be more intrigued to see how it looks like with the improvements of the knowledge that I have now. So I'd be interested to go back and revamp my old work because I don't feel like it holds up as well. So I guess in my aspect, I'm just a little different than that. If I review my old work, I'm more inclined to be like, I'm going to fix this because now I know better, than to be like, you, and then banish to the negative zone. Yeah. So that's just me as a person. Is that all my old work at some point, even if it's problematic to me in my own way, it's a lesson that I learned from, so I'd rather correct it to make it not problematic than to just be like, I banish you from existence. And that's just me, though, because some people, and if his is in that aspect, that's his personal opinion. I would just say, though, that's harder to hold in context when you make something in a medium that exists, though. Because it's, well, how do we put it? How do I?
Oh, right, a hard.
Okay, so let's put it this way. Say, here we go. I have a perfect example. It took me a moment. Rebecca Black and her song, It's Friday. When it first came out, it was basically considered the most atrocious, memeable song in the universe. Ever. Like, just ever. But that pretty much put her in a spot where everybody was just like, you can't sing. But then later, she did reveal that she went through training and everything else, and she could sing. But it was just, you know, family money. That's why she's all, out there like she was.
Okay.
So, the interpretation of how she was when she first popped out there looks horrible. But if she comes back and sings it but her proper way, then yeah, you can look back and see when she was all memeable, but you can also see like, oh, she's better now. So it's cool. She gets it. So in my context, it's not an issue if you address your old work, if you're willing to acknowledge what was wrong about it. But when you try to banish it off like it shouldn't be there and existing, it kind of feels like you're negating the fact that you did the work. And that's more problematic because that's it. There's nothing wrong with the fact that you created that. It's just you need to address things about it that you didn't. Things changed.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I've done that with particular stories and characters in my stories. I've made characters that later looking back, I'm like, I don't like you. Like, there's a lot of things. Like, I like the character, but like how they exist in the plot, no. There's characters I've completely changed their personalities because after I went back and read it as an old thing that I wrote thinking it was awesome, I was like, no, they're a douche. I don't want them. Like, I thought they were cool, but I wrote a douche.
Yeah, I've been there. I have been there.
Like, there was a whole time where I thought I was writing this stoic character, and it was just like, no, I made him a straight-up asshole. Like, there was a line for stoicism and asshole, and he crossed it at a certain point in, like, chapter 5. Because I could tell in comments when I reread it, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's a little too cold. Oh.
Yeah.
So I get it in that sense if he doesn't want to go back and remake it, but you should at least go back and address it for the people that might stumble upon it for the future so that they have context to it and know that, hey, that's not all my work now. That's just... That was my beginning.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can... Alright. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, that I can get behind. That I will get behind, actually. But, yeah, in either case, it's getting to be that time, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's technically part of our fault for tangenting into McDonald's and how we're never going to be sponsored by them.
Well, Well, what do you? What does everybody think? Leave a comment down below. I mean, like, you know, my feelings towards like David Cage, they're not gonna change. Well, unless something happens where like let's say like there's a David Cage game that comes out that's like legit, like everybody loves it, then maybe my opinion on his work will change. Because like that shows that the man is actually capable of, you know, adapting, which is good. That's good. But what about you? What about all of you out there? Like, leave a comment in the description down below, and yeah. Now now that is said and done, cast 3. There we go. Cast 3. Sorry. Well, yeah, I'm working on this, but because by the way, yeah, I know I said like this. I'm just gonna put it like you can swap casts on the fly. Yeah, you can swap casts on the fly. But anyway, like I said, leave a comment in the description and leave a comment down below, because this is a conversation that, you know, it's fun. And
I'm open to debate any opinions anybody wants, because I have no issue expressing mine and handling someone else's. So if you want to tell us what your opinion is, go right ahead.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. See you all later.